The morning sun shone through the tall glass windows of the Helios Systems headquarters in New Geneva. The building stood like a silver blade, cutting through the sky. Businessmen, workers, and high-level security moved in and out, each person moving quickly and quietly. Nobody dared waste time inside the empire of Mr. Vaughn, the most powerful CEO on earth. Mr. Vaughn himself entered the lobby at exactly 8 a.m. As always, he wore a dark blue suit with sharp edges. His silver hair was brushed neatly, and his face showed no emotion. People stepped out of his way without being told. Some nodded with respect. Others simply looked down. Everyone knew who he was. He ran Helios Systems, the company that made Earth's defense satellites, deep space ships, and AI mines. People whispered that he had more control than the president. But today, something unexpected happened. As Mr. Vaughn walked toward the elevator, a small voice rose above the usual silence. "Are you my daddy?" Everyone froze. Even the security robots stopped moving. Mr. Vaughn turned his head slowly. A little girl stood in front of him. She looked no older than 6. She had short black hair, wide gray eyes, and wore a faded green dress that looked 2 sizes too big. Her hands were behind her back, and her face was serious, but not scared. The guards stepped forward, confused. No child had ever entered the main lobby without being stopped. One guard leaned in to grab her, but Vaughn raised his hand. "Wait." The girl looked up at him again. "Are you my daddy?" she asked once more. The silence returned. A few employees began whispering. Someone pulled out their compad and started recording. Mr. Vaughn looked at the girl carefully. His face didn't change, but his mind raced. He didn't know her. He had no family. He had no children. His whole life had been business, war, and innovation. Nothing else. Still, something about the girl's face made him pause. "What's your name?" he asked. She answered softly. "Mira." "Who sent you?" "No one." "Do you know who I am?" "Yes," she said. "You're Vaughn. You're the safest man in the universe." "That's what the voice told me." Vaughn raised an eyebrow. "What voice?" "The one in my head. She teaches me things. She told me to come here." Mira's answers were strange, but not random. They were calm, direct, and far too clear for a normal 6-year-old. Vaughn looked at his assistant. "Scan her." The assistant blinked. "Sir, DNA scan, right now. But do it." The guards took Mira gently to the side and scanned her. It took just a few seconds. The results came up on the assistant's tablet. Her face turned pale. "Sir," she whispered, handing the screen to VONN. He read the words. "DNA match found. Probability, 98.9%. Relation, biological father." Vaughn didn't move. He stared at the screen for several seconds. The numbers didn't change. The result was clear. He turned back to Mira, who was now sitting calmly on a bench. Her feet didn't reach the ground. "You said someone told you to come here." He said. "Yes," she said. "She said you would protect me. She said I was made to find you. Where are your parents?" "I don't have any. Just the voice." "And now you." Vaughn stood in silence. He gave a small nod to the security team. "Clear the lobby. No press, no cameras. And call Dr. Halen from the genetics wing." The assistant leaned close. "Sir, what are you going to do?" Vaughn stared at the child again. "I'm going to find out who she really is. And why someone used my DNA without my knowledge." "But what if—" Vaughn cut her off. "She came to me. That means someone wanted me to know." As the security guards cleared the lobby and turned off the public feeds, Mira looked up again. "Are you mad?" she asked. Vaughn looked at her with the first soft expression he'd shown in years. "No, I don't think I am." He sat down beside her on the bench. For a few moments, they didn't speak. He looked at her small hands, folded neatly in her lap. She had no fear, no confusion, only patience. She looked up again and whispered, "I waited a long time." I knew you would come. Vaughn didn't answer. But deep inside, something stirred. A memory, maybe. Or a feeling he thought he had lost long ago. He stood up slowly. Come with me. Mira took his hand. The lobby lights dimmed. The employees watched from the shadows as the most powerful man on earth walked to the elevator with a little girl by his side. The door closed behind them. Nobody knew it yet. But in that moment, the future of humanity had quietly changed. The elevator rose in silence. Vaughn stood beside Mira, hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the floor indicator. Mira held his other hand, small fingers wrapped tightly around his. She didn't speak. She didn't fidget. She only stared ahead. Quiet and calm, the doors opened to the genetic sciences floor, high above the city. Inside, the white walls shone like glass, and the floor was silent except for the low hum of machines. Waiting at the door was Dr. Halen, head of Helios Systems' private genetics division. She was a thin woman with short gray hair, glasses, and a nervous look in her eyes. You called me, sir? Yes, this girl needs a full genetic profile. I want origin, sequence trace, and parent markers. Dr. Halen blinked. Of course, but may I ask? You may not. Just do it. She nodded quickly and guided Mira toward a side room. Mira followed without hesitation. Vaughn stood outside the glass window, watching. The machines moved gently. They scanned her skin, her blood, her eyes. One small probe took a strand of hair. Mira didn't even flinch. After 30 minutes, Dr. Halen returned with a tablet in her hand, her face pale. Mr. Vaughn, I don't know how to explain this. Try. She's human, yes. But her DNA has been carefully edited. Very carefully. It's not natural. Her aging rate is slowed. Her learning genes are boosted. Her immune system has 5 artificial upgrades. Vaughn raised an eyebrow. Military grade? Yes, and more. Her mind is also integrated with something synthetic. Not quite AI, but guided programming. Like someone designed her brain to accept complex thoughts early, and there's more. She turned the screen toward him. The father gene is from you, sir. A full match. I never gave my DNA to anyone. Then someone took it. Or used it without your permission. And the mother? No match in any database. It may not be human at all. Or it was wiped clean. Her maternal side is empty. Vaughn stared at the data. His face remained calm, but inside, memories stirred. Old missions. Dark projects. Hidden files. One name came back to him. Project Ashleaf. He turned to Dr. Halen. Bring up any records from classified genetic research between 2125 and 2130. Start with Titan Moonbase archives. Her eyes widened. Sir, those were sealed by Global Command. Unseal them. She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, sir. As she left, Mira walked back out of the lab room. She looked up at Vaughn. Did the machine say I'm broken? No. Vaughn replied, kneeling to her level. It said you're stronger than you look. She smiled a little. Do you remember where you were before today? He asked. I remember a soft bed. A silver ceiling. Lights that blinked. A lady's voice. Reading stories to me, then. The door opened, and there was no one. I walked out. The hallways were empty. I followed the voice, and she told me where to go. What kind of stories? Stars, planets, people who can't be touched. People who run. She said one day I would find someone who doesn't run. Vaughn's jaw tightened. How did you get into this building? I walked. No one stopped you? No. The voice showed me the path. She turned the locks off. Vaughn stood up. The I inside Mira wasn't just smart, it was deeply connected. Something or someone was guiding her. Back in his office. The glass walls looked out over the endless skyline. He stood at his desk, thinking. Mira sat on the soft white couch, drawing shapes on a digital pad. Dr. Halen entered again, nervous. I found something. A project file that was hidden deep inside an unused satellite memory cache. It's damaged, but the name is clear. She put it on the screen. Project Ashleaf Subject 017. Miravan narrowed his eyes. 17? There. Were others? It seems so. The project was about building post-human diplomats. Children who could survive the stress of alien contact without losing emotional control. They were supposed to be perfect communicators. Logical, but still warm. The kind who could stand between humans and alien species without fear. Why was it shut down? There's no clear reason. The last file says, containment breach, terminate assets, but Mira survived. Vaughn looked back at the child. She was now drawing a star. Then a person. Then two people holding hands. Can she be dangerous? He asked. Dr. Halen shook her head. Not unless she's programmed to be. But if someone hid her and sent her to you, they wanted you to find her. A soft chime rang on his screen. Security alert. Unauthorized activity detected in genetic database archive. Vaughn tapped the alert. Someone was trying to delete Project Ashley files right now. He moved fast. Seal the floor. Block all outgoing data. Too late. Another alert flashed. Data leak confirmed. Unknown source. Satellite relay. 9. Vaughn's voice dropped cold. Someone knows she's alive, and that I have her. Mira looked up from the couch. Her face serious now. There. Coming. Who? I don't know. But the voice says they're afraid of me, and they don't like you. Vaughn stepped toward the window, watching the skies. In the distance, an airship passed, too slow for military. But he knew better. Enemies don't always come with guns. Sometimes they come with silence. He looked at Myra. From this moment on, you stay with me. Understand? She nodded. Double good. Vaughn pressed a button on his desk. A hidden panel opened, revealing a sleek silver keycard and a small pistol. Activate emergency protocol, he said. A robotic voice replied. Protocol active. Secure shelter preparing. The game had started, and it all began with a little girl asking a simple question. The underground shelter of Helios Systems was unlike anything seen on Earth. Built deep below the headquarters, it could survive direct orbital strikes. Only Vaughn had full access. It was quiet, clean, and hidden from satellites. Inside, Mira sat on a soft chair, watching a holographic globe rotate in the air. Her eyes followed every movement. She wasn't bored. She was learning. Vaughn stood at the table, surrounded by screens. Files were being decrypted. Dr. Halen stood nearby, helping him sort through old, broken archives. She looked tired. Some files were damaged, others were wiped. But what they found shocked them both. Project Ashleaf had begun 15 years ago. It was run by a small group of scientists working under a special government order. Their goal: create children who could connect with alien minds, not through weapons, but through emotion and understanding. The first few subjects were failures. Some couldn't survive the treatments. Others rejected their artificial memories. But then came Subject 017. Mira. She was the first one who showed balance, intelligence, calmness, and emotional control. She spoke in full sentences by age 2. She solved complex puzzles by 3. She could identify any human emotion by voice alone. Her mind grew fast, almost too fast. She wasn't just a test subject, Dr. Halen said softly. She was the success. Vaughn nodded. And yet they shut it down. A red file appeared on the screen. It was marked Emergency Termination Order. Code black. Vaughn opened it. A video played. A scientist, frightened, looked into the camera. If you're seeing this, the lab has been breached. Something got in, or someone let it in. We're shutting everything down. The children must not fall into the wrong hands. Mira is still alive, We've hidden her. She's the only one who can... Static. Find him. The video cut off. Dr. Halen looked at Vaughn. They were hiding her from someone. Maybe from the ones who attacked the lab. Vaughn leaned closer to the screen. Or maybe they were hiding her from me. But why you? I was once part of that team. Dr. Halen's eyes widened. What? Before I became CEO, I worked on classified missions for the Global Council. I delivered materials, protected projects. I never asked what they were for. And now? Now I think I delivered Mira. Dr. Halen stared at him. That's why her DNA matches you. They used your cells. Vaughn nodded slowly, without telling me. The truth was heavier than he expected. Mira wasn't just a smart child. She was part of him, a product of his past, shaped without his knowledge. And now she had returned. Suddenly, the lights in the shelter dimmed. A warning flashed on the main screen. Unknown drone detected, 4 kilometers from base. Vaughn acted. Fast. Seal the exits. Block all com signals. The AI responded. Seal complete. He turned to Mira. She was standing now, holding her drawing pad. They found us? She asked. Yes, I didn't tell them. I know. You're safe here. She walked up to him and held out her drawing. It showed a tall man and a small girl holding hands, standing under stars. This is you and me, she said. Vonn looked at the picture for a long time. Why stars? Because that's where the others are. What others? The rest of the children. I saw them in my dreams, or maybe memories. He kneeled down. Are they alive? I think so, sleeping, in cold places I don't know where. Vaughn stood slowly. Then we have to find them. Dr. Halen interrupted. But first, we need to survive whatever's coming. The screen showed the drone getting closer. Its shape was strange, not made by Earth's regular forces. Sleek, silent, alien in design, but not fully alien. Modified human tech, Vaughn said. From one of the breakaway groups. Who? Asked Halen. Old enemies from the post-contact war, groups that didn't accept peace. They believe Earth should evolve by force. And Mira's proof that we already tried and failed. They want her gone, erased. Another alert. Drone deploying ground units. Vaughn activated the defense system. Prepare for contact. The walls shifted. Turrets rose. Shields turned on. But Vaughn knew these enemies were smart. They wouldn't attack head on. They'd try to sneak in. He turned to Myra. Do you trust me? She nodded, then listened carefully. If anything happens, follow the silver line on the floor. It leads to a pod. It will take you far from here. What about you? I'll stop them. She looked into his eyes. You're not afraid. I am, but not for me. Suddenly the ground shook. A small explosion hit near the north wall. Smoke filled the air. Robots moved into position. Vonn picked up the pistol and gave a signal. Halen, take Mira to the pod chamber. I'll buy time. Dr. Halen grabbed Myra's hand. Mira hesitated. Wait, the voice says. They're not here to destroy. They're here to take me. That's the same thing, Vaughn said. But Myra whispered, one of them is like me. Vaughn froze. You mean another child? She nodded. A boy. He's not awake. They carry him in a box. Vaughn's eyes narrowed. A cryopod. Double quotes. Dr. Halen gasped. They're using him. Controlling him. Vaughn gritted his teeth. Then we take him back. Outside, enemy soldiers moved through the underground path. Their faces were covered with masks, their movements too perfect. At the center of their group was a floating crate. Inside it, another child lay frozen in sleep. Another piece of a forgotten future. And Vaughn, now more than a CEO, more than a leader, had a mission again. This time he wouldn't fail. Smoke still rose from the far end of the underground shelter. The main door was breached. Alarms flashed red along the walls. Inside the control room, Vaughn stood ready, pistol in hand, eyes fixed on the live feed from the outer tunnel. He watched as the enemy moved with strange silence. They weren't soldiers from any Earth nation. Their armor was smooth, black, and fitted with glowing blue lines. Their steps were too exact, too in sync. Dr. Halen whispered from beside him. "They're not fully human, are they?" "No," Vaughn replied. "Modified, bio-enhanced, maybe even AI-assisted. But who controls them?" Vaughn didn't answer. He was already thinking ahead. Their goal wasn't to destroy the shelter. If they had wanted that, they would have used a missile. No, they came in small, quiet, clean. They were here for Mira. In the back of the room, Mira stood beside a hidden wall panel. She held her drawing pad close, but she wasn't afraid. Her eyes followed the blinking lights, understanding more than most adults could. She turned to Vaughn. "They know about the boy." Vaughn walked to her. "Can you feel him again?" "Yes, he's still sleeping, but he's dreaming now. He's scared. He hears voices in his head." "Can you reach him?" She shook her head. "Not without touching the box." Vaughn turned to Halen. "We need to intercept that crate. If he's like Mira, they may be using him as a tracker. That's how they found us." The screen changed. Again, one of the enemies touched the wall. A small light blinked. "They're scanning the interior structure," said Dr. Halen. "Looking for shortcuts." "Then we move fast," Vaughn said. "I'll confront them. You take Mira to the back corridor. It leads to the emergency pod chamber. If they break through, launch the pod." Mira stepped forward. "No, I want to help." Vaughn kneeled. "You've helped enough. You came to me. That changed everything. But now, I protect you. But I can talk to him." Vaughn's voice lowered. "And I'll bring him back so you can." Mira slowly nodded, though her eyes stayed locked on his. Dr. Halen took Mira's hand and led her away through a side passage. Vaughn turned back to the feed. He picked up a small earpiece. "Show me thermal view." The map shifted. Red outlines showed heat signatures moving in careful lines. They were spreading out. One group stayed near the crate. The others searched. Vaughn took a deep breath and moved through the lower tunnel. His steps were slow, measured. He knew this place better than anyone. He had designed it. Minutes passed. Then he saw them. Two tall figures moved just ahead, turning a corner. One of them carried a pulse rifle. The other was scanning the wall with a small round device. Vaughn raised his weapon. Before the first soldier could react, a sharp flash filled the hall. The rifle fell. The soldier collapsed. The second turned fast, but Vaughn rolled to the side and fired again. The second one dropped without a sound. He moved quickly to the crate. It floated gently, held up by a silent hover disk. A transparent window showed what was inside. A boy, maybe 7 years old, slept inside. His face was calm, his hands by his sides, but his eyes flickered under closed lids. He was dreaming. The screen on the crate read, "Subject 009, Tau, deep sleep mode, neural link active." Vaughn tapped the panel. "Disable link. Access denied." He tried again, bypassing with Helios security codes. Still denied. "Someone is controlling him remotely," he said under his breath. Suddenly, a sound came from behind. 3 more figures entered the hallway. One of them raised a hand, and a beam of blue light shot toward Vaughn. He ducked behind the crate. Sparks flew. Vaughn tapped the Halen emergency. They found the crate. "We're almost to the pod chamber." He needed more time. He rolled out, fired 2 quick shots. One enemy fell. The other 2 moved closer, faster now. Then something strange happened. The crate lit up. Inside, the boy's eyes opened. Bright white, glowing not like light, but like awareness. And the enemy soldiers stopped. Their helmets shook. Their bodies froze. One dropped his weapon. Vaughn stared in shock. What's happening? A soft voice came through his earpiece. Mira's voice. He's awake. How? I reached him. From here he hears me now. Vaughn looked into the crate. The boy looked back at him. His lips moved slowly. Help me. Then the crate opened with a hiss. The boy floated gently upward. His feet didn't touch the ground. The air around him shimmered. The remaining soldiers turned and ran. Vaughn stood quietly. The boy landed softly on the floor. I don't want to. Go back, the boy said. The voices hurt. You don't have to, Vaughn said. Come with me. The boy nodded. Vonn tapped the come again. Mira, he's with me. I know, she said. He feels better now. Moments later, Vaughn reached the pod chamber. Dr. Halen and Mira stood near the open pod, ready for launch. When Mira saw the boy, she ran to him and hugged him. He looked surprised, then slowly hugged her back. They didn't need words. They were the same. Two pieces of something bigger. Dr. Halen looked at Vaughn. What now? Vaughn looked at both children. Now we find the others. Behind them, the walls rumbled again. The enemy was not finished. But Vaughn had what they were after. And now he was ready to fight for it. And this time, he wasn't alone. The emergency escape pod shot out from the underground base like a silver arrow, breaking through the city's outer shell and rising into the sky. Inside, the quiet hum of engines mixed with the steady beeping of control panels. Vaughn sat at the front, eyes locked on the radar. Behind him, Mira and the boy Tao sat side by side. Dr. Halen checked their vitals through a portable scanner. They're both stable, she said softly. But the energy inside them is unusual. Vaughn didn't respond right away. He was busy guiding the pod toward an old launch site far beyond the city. A place no longer used. A place only he remembered. He finally spoke. We'll reach the Helios Shadow Station in 20 minutes. That's where they kept the rest. Dr. Halen's eyes widened. The others? Yes, Vaughn said. I didn't know they were still there. But Myra did. She told me in the shelter. They're still asleep. Mira looked up from her seat. I can feel them. They're not cold like Tao, just silent. How many? Vaughn asked. 10, maybe more. Tao stayed quiet, staring out the window. His fingers trembled slightly, but his breathing was calm. Vaughn looked back. Are you okay? Tao nodded slowly. No more voices. Dr. Halen leaned close. What did they make you do? Watch, learn, remember. Sometimes. Hurt people. But I didn't want to. You don't have to anymore, Mira said, reaching for his hand. Vaughn watched them silently. These weren't just special children. They were humanity's lost future. Born not for war, but for peace. Designed to build bridges between human minds and alien ones. But fear had buried them, locked them away like mistakes. Now, it was time to bring them home. 20 minutes later, the pod reached a hidden hangar in the desert. Vaughn entered a long-forgotten code. The ground opened slowly, revealing a sleek black stealth cruiser buried in the earth. Its name shone in silver letters. Helios Ghosted hadn't flown in over 10 years. Inside, the ship's AI reactivated. Lights flickered on. Engines purred back to life. Dr. Halen ran a quick systems check. Fuel levels at 70%. Navigation working. Cloaking still functional. Vaughn gave a sharp nod. Good. Set course for Shadow Station. We launch now. The ship rose into orbit without alerting any government systems. Its stealth tech made it invisible to common tracking. Vaughn had used this ship before, during the end of the post-contact war. Back when missions were silent and decisions were final. Mira and Tao sat near the viewing glass, watching Earth shrink behind them. You pointed. That's where the lab was. The one with the white walls. You remember? Mira asked, a little. There was a song and blue lights and sleep, Mira nodded. We'll wake the others. Helios Shadow Station floated near Saturn's rings, a black structure lost in the cold of space. It was officially listed as destroyed in a meteor strike. But Vaughn knew that wasn't true. He had helped hide it. Once, it was used to study alien signals. Later, it became the home of Project Ashleaf. As they approached, the ship's scanner lit up. Dr. Halen frowned. No signs of life. But the power core is still warm. That station isn't dead. Vaughn guided the cruiser into a docking port. The metal doors hissed open as they stepped out into a wide corridor. The air inside was cold, but breathable. Mira pointed ahead. That way. She didn't guess. She knew. They followed her down long halls with glass walls. Inside, rows of cryopods lined the walls. Children, frozen in sleep, rested peacefully. Some smiled. Others looked like they had just closed their eyes. You stepped forward. That one. Her name is Nira. She helped me count stars. Dr. Halen checked the pods. Vital signs low, but stable. We can wake them, slowly. But just as she reached to activate the sequence, the lights flickered red. Warning, incoming object detected. Vaughn rushed to a nearby screen. A ship approached the station fast, too fast. It's them, he said. They followed us. Dr. Halen gasped. But how? You used the ghost ship, Mira, Vaughn said quickly. Did you leave any message for the others? I sent a dream, she said quietly. To help them wake, Vaughn nodded. That signal must have been picked up. He turned to Dr. Halen. Wake the children now. I'll buy time. But if they board the station, they won't. I'll make sure of it. He ran back to the cruiser, suited up, and launched a small defense drone outside the station. It was armed, fast, and fully cloaked. As the enemy ship drew near, Vaughn activated the drone. A bright flash filled the black space. The enemy ship twisted, dodged, and fired back. Vaughn guided the drone through the attack, not to destroy, but to distract. Back inside, the cryopods opened one by one. The children gasped as warm air filled their lungs. Some cried. Others blinked in confusion. Mira moved from one to the next, whispering soft words. You're safe now. Daddy found us. Tao helped too, giving out warm claws and food packs. In less than 10 minutes, 13 children stood together, cold, tired, but alive. Dr. Halen looked at them with tears in her eyes. It's a miracle. Mira stood in the center of the group and turned to the glass, where she could see Vaughn's ship dancing in the distance. She raised her hand and whispered, Come back, Daddy. Vaughn's voice crackled through the radio. They're safe. Yes, she said. Come home. With one last burst, the drone returned to the cruiser. Vaughn turned the ship around and raced back to the station. The enemy ship didn't follow. It had lost its target, and the children were already gone. Back inside, Vaughn walked into the room. The children turned to him, eyes wide. Tao stepped forward. This is him. He's the one the voice told us about. One by one, the children walked toward Vaughn. Some hugged him. Some just smiled. Mira took his hand. You found us, she said. Vonn knelt, eyes soft. I promised I would. He looked around at the children, not soldiers, not weapons, but bridges to the future. And now he had a new mission. Protect them, teach them, and let them change the galaxy. The shadow station had come back to life. Inside the once-forgotten structure, the lights were warm now, the halls filled with quiet voices. The children, once frozen in sleep, moved carefully through the station. Some held hands. Some followed Mira. Others stayed close to Dr. Halen, asking questions about the world they had missed. Vonn stood in the command center, staring at the large viewing screen. The enemy ship had not gone far. It now hovered just outside sensor range, silent, waiting. They didn't leave, he said quietly. Dr. Halen joined him. They're planning something. Maybe boarding, maybe worse, Vaughn said. They might try to destroy the station. Then we have to run. Vaughn shook his head. We can't move all of them in time. The ship only has enough room for 5 or 6. And if we run, they'll follow. He turned toward her. This is where we make our stand. Dr. Halen looked nervous. You can't fight them alone. I won't be alone. At that moment, Mira walked into the room. She held Tao's hand. Behind them, the other children followed. You said we're safe now, Mira said softly. But they're still coming. They are, Vaughn said. Then let us help. You're just children. Mira stepped forward. We're more than that. We were made for something bigger. That's why we were asleep. That's why we waited. Now we're awake, and we choose to fight. Vaughn looked into her eyes. They were calm, strong, filled with something deeper than fear, purpose. He gave a slow nod. All right. Together, they made a plan. Dr. Halen worked on activating the old station defenses, 2 orbital laser towers and a shield ring. They hadn't been used in years, but the system still worked. Barely. Vonn prepared the stealth cruiser for close combat. It couldn't take down a full warship, but it could strike fast and create distraction. Mira and the other children gathered in the communication room. There, they connected to the Dream Network, a silent, invisible system that had once allowed them to share thoughts while in cryosleep. Now awake, they could reach out again. We can confuse them, Tao said. Send them false signals. We can make their ship see something that's not real, added Nira, another child who had just woken. Vaughn watched as the children sat in a circle, hands joined, eyes closed. A soft glow began to rise from the center of the room. Not a machine. Not a weapon. Something human. And more. It's starting, Myra whispered. They're listening. The enemy ship moved again, slow and careful. It began to charge weapons. Inside the shadow station, the shields powered up. Weak, but active. They're scanning us, Dr. Halen said. Let them, Vaughn replied. We want them to see us. In space, the enemy ship launched a small group of boarding pods. They moved fast, sharp and black like knives. Vaughn took the cruiser and launched into open space. He fired once, twice, drawing attention away from the station. Inside, the children focused harder. Their minds reached outward, forming shapes, sounds, signals. Not through machines, but through the shared power of their designed minds. Suddenly, inside the enemy ship, confusion began. Their screen showed the shadow station. Empty. Then it showed the station. Exploding. Then it showed 2 stations. False images, Dr. Halen whispered, watching the enemy ship spin in place. It's working. Mira opened her eyes. We can't hold it long. They'll figure it out soon. Vaughn's voice came through the com. Good. Just hold a little longer. He took the cruiser behind the enemy ship and launched a burst at its engine core. A small explosion sparked. The ship shook. But the enemy recovered quickly. Their main cannon charged and aimed at the station. Vaughn saw it too late. Brace for impact. Inside the station, the blast hit hard. Lights flickered. Shields dropped to 23%. Alarms screamed. The children stumbled, but didn't fall. Mira held onto Tao's hand tightly. We can't stop the next shot, Dr. Halen said. Vaughn's voice came again. You won't have to. I'm going in. No, Mira cried. Out. They'll destroy you. If I hit their bridge, I can break their control, maybe more. You won't survive, Tao said. Vonn paused for a moment. Then said, if that's the cost to protect you, then it's worth it. But before he could begin his final charge, something unexpected happened. From deep within the shadow station, a forgotten signal awoke. A hidden file. A failsafe. On every screen inside the station, a message appeared. Ashleaf Protocol, last defense mode active. Dr. Halen gasped. That was the original backup system for the children. If they were in danger, the station itself had A built-in guardian. Not a weapon. A shield of light, powered by the children's own energy. It had never been used before. No one believed the children would survive long enough to need it, but now they were awake and ready. Mira looked up. We can do it, together. One by one, the children raised their hands. A soft hum filled the station. The shield outside grew brighter, not from machines, but from the children's joined minds. The enemy ship fired again, a direct shot. The beam hit the shield and vanished. Inside the cruiser, Vaughn watched in shock. What? There. Protecting us, Dr. Helen said. The children, all of them. The enemy ship paused, sensors confused. Weapons offline. Inside, its crew tried to act, but the signals were scrambled. Images flickered. Orders twisted. Then Mira sent one last thought into their ship. Not a lie, not a trick, but a truth. We are not your enemies. We are not your tools. We are the future you feared. But we are not afraid anymore. The enemy ship powered. Down. Quiet. Still. The battle was over. Later, back inside the station, Vaughn walked into the central room. The children were tired, but smiling. Mira ran up and hugged him. You came back, she said. I said I would. You didn't have to do it alone, she whispered. I know. I forgot that for a moment, but you reminded me. Dr. Helen smiled. The council will hear about this. The world will change. Vaughn nodded. Let it. This time, they'll hear the full story. He looked at the children, once forgotten, now found. The silence in the space around Shadow Station felt peaceful now. The enemy ship had powered down and stayed motionless. No more missiles, no more threats. Inside the station, soft lights glowed in the halls. The children were safe. For the first time, in a very long time, they were safe. Vaughn sat quietly in the main control room, watching the children through a large window. They were laughing, talking. Some even played with each other using old toys found in the storage bay. It was a strange sight, children in a space station. But somehow, it felt right. Dr. Helen stepped in, holding a tablet filled with data. The Alliance finally responded, she said. What did they say? Vaughn asked. They're sending a peace team, no weapons. Just diplomats and medics. They want to talk and see the children. About time, Vaughn said. He looked out again. They'll have questions. They always do, Dr. Helen replied. But this time we'll have answers. Vaughn smiled slightly. Good. Mira and the other children were in the garden room, a place once used for oxygen farming. Plants grew there again, green and wild. Real soil, real air. It felt like Earth. Mira sat near a small tree, holding a broken toy robot in her hands. She turned as Vaughn entered. Hi, she said. He sat beside her. What are you working on? She showed him the robot. Its arm fell off. Vaughn took it gently and examined it. We can fix that. You always say that, Mira smiled. Because it's true. Mira was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, will they come and take us away? Vaughn knew she meant the people from the Alliance, the leaders, the ones who once gave the order to put the children to sleep. They might try, he said honestly, but they won't succeed. Not this time. Mira nodded slowly. Because we're not weapons. No, Vaughn said. You're children. You're people. You're the future. And I'll protect that. So will Dr. Helen. So will others. But what if they don't understand? Then we'll make them. The ship from the Alliance arrived the next day. It was white and clean, carrying only 10 people, no soldiers, just officers in light uniforms. Among them was a woman named Rila, the head of the peace office. Vonn met them in the docking bay, arms crossed. Before you ask, he said, they're fine, better than fine. Rila held up her hands. We're not here to fight. You already did that once, he replied coldly. We know. she said quietly. That's why we're here now, to fix it. Vaughn said nothing. Dr. Halen stepped forward. You can see them, but you don't get to test them. No labs. No needles. You talk. You listen. That's all. Rila agreed. They walked together through the station. Rila and the others met the children. Mira stood in front of the group, proud and calm. You're the one who sent the message, Rila said. Yes, Mira answered. It was very human. That's because I am. Rila smiled gently. We forgot that. We called you projects. But you're people. Mira nodded. We don't want to fight. We want to live. Rila turned to Vaughn and said, She's more of a leader than most of us. In the days that followed, things began to change. The Alliance Council officially closed the old cryo-child program. All related documents were made public. People across the planets read about what had happened and what Vaughn and the children had done. Some were angry. Others were ashamed, but most were inspired. They called it the Day of Awakening. Soon, other hidden facilities were found. More children, like Mira and Tao, were rescued. Not many, but enough. And at the heart of it all stood Shadow Station, a symbol of hope. Vonn stayed with them. He could have left. He had money, ships, even old business contacts back on Earth. But none of it mattered now. This is where I belong, he told Dr. Halen. You were always running from something, she replied. But now you're running towards something, he laughed. A bunch of kids? A family, she said softly. One quiet evening, Mira sat beside Vaughn on the viewing deck. Stars filled the glass in front of them, twinkling like diamonds. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. When I first saw you, back in the lobby. I asked if you were my dad. I remember. You didn't answer. Vaughn looked at her, because I didn't know what to say. Do you know now? He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I'm not your father by blood, Mira, but that doesn't matter. Because I've chosen to stay, chosen to protect you, chosen to love you. She smiled. Then, that's enough. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Yes, it is. The future was uncertain. There would be challenges. There would be people who still feared the children, who didn't understand what they could be. But Mira and the others had already proved who they were, not weapons. Not secrets. Just children who wanted a chance. And now, finally, they had it.